And now for something completely different. Over the last 3 years, working with the Department for International Trade in London and Shanghai, the UK advertising sector has been building business relationships with the Shanghai International Advertising Festival, a flagship event in the Shanghai City Council calendar. The event was due to happen in early March, and 20 UK creative businesses were due to both attend and speak at the event, with networking opportunities to meet with Chinese brand owners and agencies looking to internationalize through the UK. You won't be surprised to hear it didn't happen, but it will be happening from the 21st to the 24th of July this year, and we will be there, although virtually. And in between, rather than lose touch with our China allies and friends, we've invited them to join us at Createch. For those of you interested in China as a market opportunity, 24 Chinese Createch businesses are taking part in our China showcase in the UK Advertising Export Group booth. There will be a show reel of these innovative Chinese companies, which will run from 2:45 p.m. this afternoon. And immediately after this session, the UK Advertising Export Group booth will be running a very popular session from yesterday, with a panel discussion looking at UK-China collaboration. That's from 1:15. This is our first virtual mission from China, and we're delighted to have the Shanghai International Advertising Festival team involved. And now on the main stage from 12:30 to 1, or a bit later, 1:45 to 1:15, we're delighted to share with you a pre-record panel discussion from Shanghai, hosted by Becky Zhu, Senior Trade and Investment Officer, DIT Shanghai, with panelists Anderson Liu, CEO Westwin, Liu Lin, Chief Strategy Officer China, and Jaymin Ji, President of the SHIAF, Shanghai International Advertising Festival. They'll be discussing how technology in China is changing the global marketing industry and what it means for communications with and in China. I'm taking a short break now to explore the rest of the festival, and in particular to participate in the China sessions at UK AEG booth. Alice Thwaite will be with you from 2 when our programme begins again on the main stage. And that will be a fascinating session. All the web's a stage, the digital future of the performing arts, with guest speaker Kwame Kwe-ama, the artistic director of the Young Vic. I'll see you back here for the last session at 6 p.m. Please can you now play the Shanghai Calling video? Enjoy, everybody.
Hi everyone, welcome to Shanghai Calling. And we're actually calling Createch from Shanghai, as you can see the beautiful view of the band outside our window. I'm Becky, Senior Trade and Investment Officer of the UK's Department for International Trade, and the moderator of this panel. I'd like to introduce our guests. Anderson Liu, CEO of Westwin, a leading technology-driven digital marketing company that focuses on cross-border business, formerly known as Microsoft Online.
Hi everyone.
Lin Liu, Chief Strategy Officer of China, the global media agency under the IPG Group.
Thanks, Becky, for having me here.
And Jaymin Ji, President of Shanghai International Advertising Festival. Welcome.
Hi guys.
Today, we're going to talk about how technology is changing the global marketing industry during and after the pandemic. Jaymin, could you name some of the technologies that Chinese consumers use the most during and after the pandemic?
Technology has been applied everywhere in Chinese consumers' life, and some of them just stood out, became the most popular ones during and after the pandemic. For example, Zoom and DingTalk are the hottest application people used for the con call and video conference. It's convenient, efficient, and safe to work from home or bring people together in different locations with perfect social distance, of course. Well, these kinds of technologies are based on strong support of internet, which I'd like to mention 5G here. It is being popularized and will be widely used in many fields in China and make real changes.
Thank you, Jaymin. Ling, I know you have written some industrial reports about this topic. So, any insights to share?
It's actually a really exciting time for us because I feel like a lot of the abstract technology terms suddenly become very, very tangible in people's life. I think 5G is definitely a big topic. I actually think some of the applications of 5G that were actually deployed during this pandemic, in nature they can be substituted by 4G. However, they actually got the moment to shine, and they kind of demonstrated the advantage that 5G would have over 4G. I think one of the highlights from this whole episode in Wuhan was the construction of the hospital in Wuhan in like 10 days. And 5G actually enabled the live broadcast of the entire process. In a traditional setting, in a 4G setting, you might not be able to get as high resolution for that whole process, or not as live. Or in a Wi-Fi situation, in a Wi-Fi enabled situation, you actually need to set up the Wi-Fi first before you can actually do the live broadcast. Thanks to 5G, people kind of got a chance to monitor the whole process from the get-go without any time lapse. So I think the outcome of that was consumers are really excited about 5G. I think in reality this year, we're not going to see a kind of 5G handsets flying off the shelf because of the disruption in the global supply chain. Some of the technology, some of the new products launches are probably delayed. But I think what you will see in the future is people are looking forward to it. So I suspect the promotion cost will be lower in this scenario. The other very, very noteworthy technology application was AI and big data in the deployment of health code, which kind of powered China's recovery in very, very tremendous ways. Hangzhou, which is the hometown of Alibaba, managed to pull this off in 2 weeks and actually had the mandate from the government kicked in earlier to ask the telecoms release the data to them. They probably would have come up with that technology even sooner. And then, around China, every geography, every city, every province had their own health code, which allowed people to move around with relatively kind of a secure security that allows people to be tracked in a very efficient way. I think moving forward, the upside and downside is how do we carry this forward? I think in some cities in Suzhou, this health code has evolved into some form of electronic ID cards for average citizens. So your driver's license is on it, your social security is on it, blah, 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 which is all good. But what about the privacy side? I think Chinese consumers are less worried about privacy because it's a big concept that a lot of us don't really think about too much because it hasn't hurt us. Usually in China, how that works is if there's a leak, if there's an accident, and then people start to say, what do we do about it?
Yeah.
But so far so good because it's tightly managed by the government and big data platforms, which are more kind of cautious, more vigilant about protecting people's data. They won't let other people use it, but you never know. I think the other thing that consumers might become an issue for consumers later on is this is a real case of government and private business collaborating to come up with the infrastructure for the society at large. But the data platforms actually got a chance to keep the data, which they could actually turn into commercial applications. What happens in that case? I think right now nobody knows. But the amazing part of leveraging the technology platforms is there's zero adoption curve. The code is embedded in the super apps. We open it up, it's there. We go into any building, and then the superintendent would say, please show the health code. And you go, what health code? They were like, oh, just open your Alipay or open up your Tencent, and then we point out to you where it is for you. So it's only, I think this kind of initiative is only effective when it has near universal adoption. Versus in, say, some Western culture where you actually have a lot more limitations around how to use the data, how to use AI, in which case only a small percentage of people actually downloaded the app and then use it. So it's not quite as effective. So I actually think that's something very, very noteworthy. I think moving forward, we kind of need to figure out how do we balance private citizens' right to their own data with how do we actually use these things, use the convenience of data moving forward. But that's going to be a long evolution and conversation. So I think, in terms of the real usage, those are the two things that really, really stand out in this pandemic for me.
Thank you, Ling. Anderson, what do you think?
I think both Ling and it talking about the very big concept of the 5G or AI, big data, which is definitely starting to get really popular in the year 2019. However, when we get into the end of the year 2019, we actually unfortunately encountered this pandemic worldwide. So I would say from a pure business perspective, I probably share a little bit slightly different feelings in terms of how, from our views about this kind of a small, medium-sized, even bigger enterprise to leverage technology to kind of trying to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. I think right after the Chinese New Year, Westwin actually are roll out this kind of online survey. We're trying to find out or predict or even get some feedback from the kind of enterprise saying how are you going to do when lockdown is everywhere, when people no longer able to traveling anymore. So the interesting finding during this survey is reveal us that there's two very interesting phenomena here in China. Number one is people starting to using video stream to doing basically everything. One of the interesting feedback we got from one of our partner is Strawberry Music Festival, which is a pretty famous offline music festival in China. However, during this pandemic, they basically partnered with one of the video streaming company to roll out the very first online video stream Strawberry Music Festival, which is amazing. This is actually entertainment industry shifting their focus from offline to online. And then when you're talking about the real business, all this, Westwin is doing, kind of inbound, outbound, cross-border, e-commerce, business to helping the company to, promote their services, selling their product. But we realize that all these advertisers trying to selling this service and product through this video streaming. And this trend is actually accelerating when timing get to the March, get to the April. You probably know that, kind of at least a dozen of the, very senior officers, including our premier, is actually selling stuff through the video streaming. So that is actually a very big trend that, the merchandise, the stores, no matter it's big brand or small, trying to really embrace this video streaming, trying to carry on their e-commerce business. That is actually very practical technology when the business is encounters in pandemic. I think the second one is very interesting too. This pandemic is really accelerating the entire society to embrace the technology. It's not some kind of very high-end, fancy technology like 5G, big data. It's very straightforward, like the video stream. So the interesting finding we found out in the rural area in China, tier 5 city, tier 6 city, the elder people they actually already know how to use a video stream to either see the movies or buying stuff. So the penetration rate about this video streaming during this pandemic is basically accelerating. And this is actually an amazing hint for the kind of a enterprise or the people to think about how you're going to dealing with this pandemic situations and what you were going to do even after this pandemic, which basically give you a brand new concept on how you're going to conduct your business in a more efficient way, in more kind of a popular way.
Thank you. Well done, Anderson. Your company is focusing on cross-border marketing.
Yep.
From your point of view, what does technology mean for communications with and in China, and how should brands react?
Yes, I think this is a very good question. Just as I mentioned about, this trend is definitely shifting right on point to react this pandemic influence right now and moving forward, because we realize that the significant influence about this pandemic is not going to disappear overnight. It's going to be still there for 18 months based on some kind of very famous doctor said, or even last longer than that. So I think what the brand should really do is embrace this kind of new technology to maximize the influence about the internet, about the mobile internet, about the video streaming. So who is influencers during this new arena, in this new technology? If you look inside into who's going to influence them, there must be some very obvious opinion leaders, obvious KOL is all around the globe. So for the business who is doing focus on China from the foreign countries like the kind of a UK as beachhead of the European countries, or the US or the Japan or South Korea, if they're trying to targeting on this kind of emerging middle class populations here in China, they definitely should pay more attention to this KOL, to these opinion leaders, to this very popular or visual people's or identities in this kind of video stream or in this WeChat group. And this is the key point that they need to kind of grasp and engage with your brand, engage with your product, engage with your services to helping them to deliver your message, selling your product, get your brand to be more aware of through their mouths, through their shows, through their engagement with the much broader audience, which currently is sitting in front of the screen, limited their travels. So this is definitely the right thing to do for them right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Anderson. What does it mean to you, Jaymin?
It means convenience. It has become a trade that we are relying more and more on internet for communication. Chef, we call Shanghai International Advertising Festival, we call it Chef. Chef is a trade platform, has collected a lot of brands and agencies feedbacks. As you can see, the brands have transformed their focus on online advertising and diversified creative digital advertisements are much preferred. People are getting used to online involvement, and this type of communication will stay for a long time. Different locations and time zones will not be a problem for event participation and group work.
Lane, your opinion?
I think we are seeing both our economy and our communication framework shifting towards individuals a little bit more. I think to Anderson's point earlier, I totally agree. I think what we are seeing, the rise of influence of KOLs, etc., etc. What I really find interesting post the pandemic is I think consumers' role in this framework has shifted from kind of a gazer, looking at the KOL, to a participant, which is actually very, very important. And some of that has to do with how some of the retail business salvaged themselves during the pandemic. I think some of the most noteworthy example, one is LV, the other is a local brand called 73 Hours. I think there's the skincare company, Lin Qingxuan. During the pandemic, they reacted very, very quickly and turned their sales staff into online KOCs, what we call the grassroots influencers in China. And I think we're going to see more of that. I think the infrastructures, the retail infrastructures will be set up in a way to allow those people to communicate with customers one-on-one. That's something that's here to stay. And thanks to some of deployment by, say, some of the big platforms, like local service this year would be a big battleground for all the platforms, Meituan, for Ali, for Tencent. We're going to see a lot of that, which means services will be also provided very, very locally. So in that context, the individuals who are employed by some of the bigger companies, how they communicate with their customers will become very, very important. They used to just, take the company's asset and then hand it to their consumers and say, we have this, or they don't even show up at all. Moving forward, it's very, very likely some of them will turn into this kind of influencers. And actually a very interesting shift that we're seeing. China used to be an attention economy, meaning if you have a very pretty face and if you're very eager to please people, you're going to get very popular. But with the shift in the this retail structure, what you're going to see is people with a strong will to sell the products, people who have top-notch professional knowledge will actually win in this battle. Whether you're pretty or not, it doesn't matter, because we all know a lot of the live drop software, they come with beautifying features, so everybody looks pretty. Like a pretty face is no longer a competitive advantage. I think moving forward, what we're seeing is communication will become even more decentralized in some way. Individual consumers, individual influencers will have more of a personality, knowledge play in this mix, which poses very, very interesting challenge to the brands. Like, I understand so much of that is actually managed by my employees. Then on the top of it, how do I actually still create a very collective experience for all of my consumers? That's something that I think every brand who cares about like long-term brand building and short-term sales need to balance beautifully, with the support from data, from internal training, and then from imagination.
Thank you, Lin. Obviously, the pandemic has changed the world and impacted all industries. But luckily, technology helped us to pull ourselves together and find new ways to move on.
Yes.
So, Lin, what kind of new opportunities could you think of that are opening up for business exchange?
I actually think probably two things that are the most noteworthy for me. One is bringing people who used to be on the edge of technology. I think Anderson brought up this point earlier. It's the older people. Like, we're actually seeing older women, and by older we really mean like 40 plus women nowadays are buying more skincare products online versus traditionally offline. So a lot of the habits are changing. I think as a community in general, as an industry in general, we're not very good with targeting people who are on the outset. We're so used to target rich, young, pretty people. How do we change that? A lot of the older people, and by older I mean senior citizens, they will be left out by a lot of technologies. How do we actually communicate and educate them, involve them, and design products for them to the extent that they could be part of this evolution forward? Because I actually think after this pandemic, thanks to the acceleration of adoption of technology, it's becoming harder and harder not to take part. In the past, they can just be left alone happily, but moving forward, it's not going to. And then the second thing is empowerment, for those people who want to be a live streamer, who wants to, build either a presence or even a business online. How can, in the middle of all this infrastructure change, how do we actually help them? I think that's another big opportunities moving forward. Over the last few days, everybody's talking about China's permission to let people to do, night stalls on the street. And I think that's going to be very interesting. How do those people would actually leverage technology with this new permission to go back to the street and do some kind of business on the street to help them to pull through the economic hard time. What are some of the applications that can make that slightly easier for them? That's something that I'm genuinely looking forward to.
Yeah, thank you, Lin. Very interesting. And what do you think, Anderson?
I think this is for me, my personal opinion is even this pandemic is kind of calming down here in China, and the trend in the European countries somehow, kind of definitely going the downtrend. I still think it's still early for us to really predict what will be the new opportunity especially for the business. It's still too early to predict. However, I think there is one perspective. I'm pretty sure that all this, business or advertisers, they are already aware of, which is there is a way for all of us to really improve the business efficiency by leverage the new technology. It's actually not a new technology. It's the technology you have to really embrace.
Yeah.
You have to really embrace. Take the Westwin examples. We are not going to the office, doing home office for almost 4 months. In the very beginning, I definitely concerned about this efficiency going down, or whether we can have a very good communications, how we are not going to have a face-to-face meeting in 4 months, 1/3 of the year. But it turns out the reality is it doesn't matter that much. People still carry on their job, and our meeting is still going on. Our new product is still being delivered. So my point is the efficiency improvement is vitally important at this moment for the business. I think eventually, whether it's new technology or it's old technology, the efficiency improvement is a key for our business to grow, as well as for the society to grow. So leverage the existing technology or embrace the new technology, like new, kind of a conference software like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, like this. You can definitely improve the efficiency by using the same group of people, even less people, by eliminating the transportation, by eliminating the air flight. So once the efficiency is proved, and then as a corporation, your profit margin is going to increase, or even get bigger if your top line is not being impacted. So for me, I think the straightforward answer at this moment, especially at this moment when the pandemic is not totally disappeared, improve the efficiency by embracing technology. This is the key. It's actually a new opportunity, I think, for not only the company like Westwin, but also for the individual or for even the bigger society.
Thank you, Anderson. So can we have your opinion, Jaymin?
The bonding between Chinese market and global market will be closer with remote communication. Companies could have more options for business exchange. It would be easier for Chinese brands to expand in overseas markets with the help of international agencies. Likewise, the foreign companies could get to know more about Chinese market and brands. So platforms like Chef and IPA and see more opportunity to step in Chinese market and serve Chinese brands. Collaboration across country will be a big trend, I think so. and also Anderson mentioned like that. The cooperation between Chef and IPA could prove it. We have frequent communication and deep involvement in each other's activities. This online panel is the first virtual trade mission and quite an experiment. We really appreciate IPA's invitation, and we would like to invite IPA to be part of Shanghai International Advertising Festival in July. 5G, online forum, and virtual booths will be our key words to connect East and West and make more business happen in China. Stay tuned and let's see if we could surprise you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jaymin. Your sharing today is much appreciated, and I want to thank Createch for this wonderful opportunity. And we look forward to the Shanghai International Advertising Festival in July. Bye.
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 Goodbye.
Want access to more CogX videos? Subscribe now for free at CogX.co.